Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company on the 440 Sports Network here on YouTube at Stillman and Co. As again, we want you to like, we want you to subscribe, we want you to get in here, we want you to tell your friends, we want you to subscribe to the podcast. Again, Still Billy Nation, we appreciate you and we appreciate everything that you have done so far, and we continue on this. But today, we have an utterly loaded show. We have a ton to get to. We have the Titans and the latest surrounding what Mike McCoy had to say today with Cam Ward and Amy Adams Strunk was a no-show for the owners' meetings and what that means. We've got the Predators who freaking stink, just freaking stink. And we'll get to it, but I think it's time for a coaching change. As far as the Predators are concerned, though I'm not sure that that's much of a surprise. But the big news today, just breaking within the last hour or two, the San Francisco Giants are hiring Tennessee baseball coach Tony Vitello to be their manager. And this had been rumored since Saturday. I was kind of stunned Saturday when I saw the report from Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic that Tony Vitello was kind of the choice for Buster Posey in San Francisco, who is running the operation there, even though he has no experience to run the operation there. And so I saw the story Saturday about Vitello. And ever since then, Tennessee fans have been on Tony Vitello watch. And it was, hey, it's getting close. Hey, it's not done. Hey, Vitello's at practice. Hey, Vitello's at the scrimmage. Hey, Vitello's waving to the fans. Tony Vitello was the topic of du jour in Tennessee. And that was on the weekend of a Tennessee-Alabama football game, which is incredible. And a testament to what Tony Vitello did at Tennessee. Yesterday, Tennessee fans were going all out trying to keep Tony Vitello as the coach. They organized, and I thought this was pretty funny last night, on Twitter. They organized kind of a Twitter protest, but not a Tennessee fan protest. They all decided to pretend they were San Francisco Giant fans and said, you don't want Tony Vitello? We're too woke for Tony Vitello. It didn't work. Again, the San Francisco Giants are hiring Tony Vitello to be the next manager of the Giants. As Bob Nightingale put out there, USA Today, longtime baseball scribe, Vitello was earning $3.3 million annual with benefits, and he will be taking a pay cut to manage the Giants in his new deal. Bob Nightingale also says the Giants still owe Bob Melvin $4 million for 2026. First of all, I was shocked by that. Not shocked that Vitello took a pay cut. But that was one of the reasons why when Ken Rosenthal reported on Saturday that the Giants were closing in on Tony Vitello, I was a little surprised because I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, Tony Vitello's making $3 million at least at Tennessee. And I didn't think they paid major league managers that much. I mean, I know there are some teams like Craig Counsell makes a lot of money for the Cubs, but for the most part, major league manager is not that big of a job. The manager gets so little credit. They nowadays ask the manager to do so little. He handles the press conferences and quote unquote manages the team. But it feels like for a lot of these major league clubs, the analytics department decides who's going to bat where, who's going to play what position, and who we're bringing in out of the bullpen. And then they call it down to the little phone in the dugout, and they say, hey, put Lopez in. It's like, okay, the computer said we need to put Lopez in. Go ahead, put Lopez in. And a college coach pretty much does everything. So I was kind of surprised that the major league teams paid Bob Melvin $4 million. I was shocked by that. So here are my thoughts on Tony Vitello leaving Tennessee. And I know there are a lot of Tennessee fans hurt. And that is actually a good thing. Number one, my first take on Tony Vitello leaving Tennessee is I'm sad to see it end. I'm not a Tennessee fan. In fact, if anything, I am a Tennessee antagonist because Tennessee fans get wild and crazy and carried away and say a bunch of stupid shit, and I've always been one to push back on it. I'll never forget when I first was on the radio back in town taking phone calls about Nick Saban better watch out for Butch Jones. And I'm like, okay. I remember when it was Rick Barnes. He's great. You keep saying he can't win the big one, and he's so. Now, I love Rick Barnes. I hope for the best with Rick Barnes. But Rick Barnes can't win the big one. So at times, I have had to play the role of protagonist when it comes to Tennessee, but oftentimes antagonist. But I'm sad to see this end because Tony Vitello brought life into a dormant program. The truth is, the way Tennessee fans looked at baseball before Tony Vitello got there was, who cares? Vanderbilt fans used to call my show, and they used to say when we would crap on Vandy because they stunk at football or other sports, and they would say, well, at least we're good at baseball. And it was hard. Again, I don't want to knock college baseball. I don't want to knock the Vandy boys. I don't want to. But when it came to Vandy baseball, I just kind of felt like, there's Vandy baseball fans out there, but there's not a whole bunch of people that are casual sports fans that care about Vandy baseball. It made it very hard to talk about when it came to the mainstream. And then Tony Vitello showed up. And Tony Vitello, I talked about this with Mike Vrabel. I talked about this with John Gruden. Tony Vitello had the bro charm. If Barstool Sports had a baseball coach, it would be Tony Vitello. Tony Vitello was perfect for that job. He embraced the nuttiness of the fans. He had the same energy that the Tennessee fans had. He embraced the fact that he was building a program at UT. And he worked and recruited his ass off. And so he made Tennessee baseball relevant. He put Tennessee baseball on the map. And that changed the dynamics of how people viewed college baseball in this town. I kept saying Vanderbilt fans don't want to admit it, but it was good for Vandy baseball and good for the discussion and good for the awareness and good. It was good for everything that Tony Vitello had taken Tennessee and turned them into a national program. That was good. And I know Vandy fans didn't want to admit that because Vandy fans didn't like Tony Vitello because Tony Vitello and his Tennessee Volunteers, they were a little rude. They were a little crass. They were a little out there. They were a little everything. But sometimes that's good. And it was good. And last year, it made Tennessee versus Vanderbilt appointment viewing. I was in Costa Rica when they played last year at Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and I watched the 3-game series. Tennessee took game 1, and all of a sudden the shit talking started about, Vandy. And then Vandy took games 2 and 3. And then they played in the SEC tournament, and Vanderbilt kicked that ass. And that is a real rivalry. And Gentry Estes at the Tennessean, who has some out there columns sometimes, but is no dummy, kept telling me, hey, man, when I write about Tennessee baseball, you should see the amount of readership I get. And when I write about Vandy baseball nowadays, you should see the readership I get because the Tennessee fans were obsessed with Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt fans were obsessed with Tennessee, even though they wouldn't say anything. And for years, we didn't really have this kind of rivalry in football and we didn't really have this rivalry in basketball, but we had it in baseball. That's why PK yesterday said on a football show, he hopes and prays that Vandy and UT meet in November with a trip to the playoff on the line, because then you'll really get that true rivalry feeling. So I'm sad to see that end because Corbin versus Vitello was perfect theater. You had Tim Corbin, the buttoned up, experienced, cerebral general who the antics of celebrating Even early on, the transfer portal and NIL, it was beneath Tim Corbin. It was beneath the Vandy boys. And then you had the loudmouth, cocky assholes in Knoxville who embraced the fact that they kind of liked being the baseball team of white trash. They loved it, and they embraced it. There was a Jerry Springer element to UT baseball. And again, at the end of the day, this is entertainment. It's not a church. It's not a courtroom. It's a baseball diamond. It's entertainment. And Tennessee was entertaining. And the contrasting styles between the Tony Vitello, they'd chug a beer at first base if they could, Tennessee Volunteers, and the Tim Corbin Vandy boys that still lament the fact that Zima is no longer on the market, was incredible to watch from afar. So that's my first thought, is that I am sad to see the Tony Vitello era end in Tennessee. Number two, I don't think this is going to work. And I'm talking about Vitello into the major leagues. Again, I know a lot about Major League Baseball. There's a game called Immaculate Grid. You can play it with any sport. Basketball, hockey, baseball, football. I'm not really good at it with the other sports. I am awesome at it with baseball. Baseball was my first true love in life, and I have a pretty good feel for how Major League Baseball works. Not like I did when I was 14 years old and I knew every player on every team and everything about Major League Baseball, but I know how Major League Baseball works. And I do not think Tony Vitello is a fit for Major League Baseball. Number one, there are 162 games when it comes to Major League Baseball. Tony Vitello's biggest strength, I believe, as a coach, is that he is an excellent motivator, but that he has this unbelievable amount of energy. That every single game, and he's had to tone it down some, but every single game, Tony Vitello is a 10 out of 10. He is a 10 out of 10 when it comes to the umpires. He is a 10 out of 10 when it comes to the other dugouts. He is a 10 out of 10 when it comes to the media. You can't be that way in Major League Baseball. Now, I'm not saying you have to sit on your ass and do nothing in the dugout like Aaron Boone does with the Yankees, but it's just a different sport. It's a grind. It's a long season. It's a don't get too high, don't get too low. You can't manage every game like it is Game 7 of the World Series, and that's how Tony Vitello is. A baseball manager is a lot like an NBA coach. You play a role, and you have to keep the train from going off the tracks, but you're not the driving force as to why your team is good. Dave Roberts is back in the World Series with the Dodgers. If they win again, he'll have 3 championships, and he will have been to all these World Series and all these NLCSs. And do we really look at him the same way that we looked at Bill Belichick when he was winning championships with the Patriots? No. Because Dave Roberts sits there on his rear end in the dugout, and he's got Ohtani and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Yamamoto and Blake Snell and all these. It's players, not coaching when it comes to baseball. Again, the job of a baseball manager is to keep things on the train tracks. The manager does not work with a hitter when he's in a slump. The manager does not work with a pitcher when he can't throw a strike. I've covered Major League Baseball before. It is a different vibe than college baseball, which again, the coach is in control of everything. In Major League Baseball, if you've ever covered Major League Baseball before, and you've been inside the clubhouse of a Major League team, you would not really know the difference between who the coaches are and who the players are, except for the coaches are about 65 years old and 300 pounds. That's the only difference. Everybody goes about their business. It's a grown man sport. And I think, again, Tony Vitello's high energy is great for the 18-year-old, great for the 19-year-old. I'm not sure it's going to be great on May 17th when they blow a 3-run lead at Colorado. So I don't think it will work. I give Tony Vitello credit because he did accomplish pretty much everything there was to accomplish at UT, and he will always have the option of going back to college baseball. See, I think Tim Corbin would be a better major league manager than Tony Vitello just because of the way that Corbin is composed, the way Corbin is methodical, the way Corbin is, whereas Vitello's like a giant shotgun of energy. So I don't think it'll work. That's number 2. Number 3, I see a lot of Tennessee fans are mad at Danny White. I'm not the biggest Danny White fan in the world. Danny White didn't hire Rick Barnes. Danny White didn't hire Tony Vitello. He did hire Josh Heupel, and Josh Heupel's done a nice job. And he has kind of embraced this, hey, Tennessee, we're all in NIL, and I think that Tennessee fans like that. At the same time, I prefer my athletic director to kind of be in the background. You do your work, and when it's time for a press conference, you do the press conference. When it's time for a video, you do the video. When women's soccer has a big game on the road, retweet it when they win. I think Danny White's got a pretty big ego, and I think sometimes Danny White wants people to view the University of Tennessee and their athletic department as the University of Danny White, and that rubs me the wrong way. But Danny White is not a bad athletic director. I don't know how you can blame Danny White for this. Baseball, and I know Tennessee baseball sells a bunch of tickets, baseball is a non-revenue sport. The truth is, football makes money. Men's basketball makes money. Women's basketball and baseball don't make money. So in order to be good, you have to be a school that is willing to say, fuck it, let's spend a bunch of money, try to win a national title because we enjoy winning more than the business of what it does to our bottom line. And that's why LSU wins women's basketball titles and baseball titles, because LSU has all these boosters that are like, screw it, I want to be good. I don't care if we lose money. This was a major league baseball job. It is not like Tony Vitello made a lateral move and said, I'm going to leave Tennessee and I'm going to go to Arkansas, or I'm going to go to South Carolina, or I'm going to go to Georgia or Vandy. He's going to the major leagues. He's already won a national title in college baseball. And so now he gets a shot to go win a World Series. When these players like Shohei Ohtani or Daisuke Matsuzaka or Yoshibo Yamamoto or Ichiro Suzuki, when they left Japan in order to go play Major League Baseball, it's because that is the peak of the sport. This is the peak of the sport. So I understand you're upset, Tennessee fans, that you lost your coach. And I'm not the biggest Danny White fan in the world. And Tony Vitello was 101. He was a special coach. But let's not kid ourselves. This is the major leagues. I remember when Tim Corbin was winning national titles at Vandy in 2014, and then they went back to the title game in 2015. And I kept thinking, why doesn't a major league team try to hire Tim Corbin? It feels like these major league teams just go out of their way to bring up a guy from AAA or a bench coach from somewhere. And baseball's kind of like hockey. There's a lot of retread coaches. I mean, how many teams has Dusty Baker been the manager for? So oftentimes when a team makes a managerial change, it's usually for somebody who's either been a manager before and been fired, is on their major league staff, or is their AAA manager. That's usually how it is. Now, we've seen some of these former players just randomly get hired with no experience, like an Aaron Boone. Rocco Baldelli got hired a couple of years ago. He had no experience. Gabe Kapler, when he first got hired, he had no experience. But this is a new era for college baseball to the major leagues. So Tennessee fans be upset at Danny White. That's fine. That's your business. I wouldn't be upset at Danny White. I would say, let's hold off on that. Number 4, congratulations to the Vandy boys and to Vanderbilt fans. You have, for right now, your thing back. Boy, there was a lot of anger, a lot of jealousy, and most importantly, a lot of fear when it came to the Vandy boy fans when Tennessee got good. Because for years, baseball was Vandy's thing. And Tennessee fans didn't care about baseball. Yeah, they had a team, but it wasn't worth watching. So they just didn't care. And so when Vandy fans would say things like, yeah, well, we have baseball, Tennessee fans would be like, who gives a shit? And then Tony Vitello got good. And then Tennessee baseball fans gave a shit. And again, that energized the rivalry. That was a true rivalry. The contrasting styles. I said this when Bud Light was going through that whole transgender thing a couple years ago. And I said, the Vandy boys are the team that's too good to ever drink a Bud Light. And the Tennessee team is the kind of team that used to drink every Bud Light, and now they won't. That's the difference between the two teams and the contrasting styles. And it was great theater. But now, until Tennessee goes out and hires a coach, and that coach gets Tony Vitello-like results, I can't say the rivalry's back on and it's going to have as much juice as it had been having year in and year out. And Tim Corbin is going to be put in every Hall of Fame that he's qualified for. So every college baseball Hall of Fame, every Vanderbilt Hall of Fame, every Tennessee Hall of Fame, every single one of these, when Tim Corbin is done, he'll go into. I mean, I could text Brad Willis right now, the executive director of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, and say, hey, is Corbs getting in as soon as it? Yes, I already know the answer. But Tim Corbin felt real pressure with Tony Vitello racking up wins in Knoxville. And so for right now, Vandy fans rejoice. You still have Tim Corbin. You still have your infrastructure in place. Tennessee fans, they are hurting today. And I feel for them because Tony Vitello was the most popular coach on that campus. And he was the most successful coach on that campus. And so they're hurting today. And Vanderbilt fans are enjoying that. And that's part of a rivalry. But I would say, Vandy fans, as much as you're celebrating, just know Tony Vitello's success in Knoxville made the rivalry worth it. And that we don't necessarily have so much anymore. And then finally, I've got a list for who I think should be the next Tennessee baseball coach. We'll get to that first. I want to tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. And by the way, I see somebody in the YouTube chat that says, I'm getting Twitter notifications about the Titans while listening to him talk about Tony Vitello. Yes, that is because, again, the breaking news today, Tony Vitello has accepted the position to be the manager of the San Francisco Giants. And so I'm reacting to the breaking news, and I did not know, how much of a rant I would have, how much of a, how far we would go. But I do want to talk about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of both Vanderbilt and Tennessee. I'm sure they are upset, although they're understanding. I'm sure they're upset today about the Tony Vitello news. And then we will get to my list to replace Tony Vitello here in just a second. Okay, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They are awesome. They take great care of my home, and they can do the exact same for you. Here's the deal with Hiller. They've been in business since 1990. They are family-owned and operated, 100% satisfaction. If happy, you'll be here. The service is free. If a customer is not pleased with the work performed, Hiller will make it right. Learn more at happyhiller.com with professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians who come in your home and leave it clean and better than they found it. And I can attest to this because I use Hiller at my home. And again, they come in, they put their little shoe covers on, and they take it very seriously when it comes to making sure that you are happy with their service. And I got to say, as a Hiller customer, I am very appreciative. So that's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, Electrical. Do what I do. Go online, happyhiller.com. That's how I book. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Proud supporters of the Vanderbilt Commodores, the Tennessee Volunteers, and the Nashville Predators. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Okay. Taylor says he's got 20 minutes left on his lunch break. Can we talk Titans? Let's get to the list, and then we'll get to the Titans. So this is my list of who should replace Tony Vitello in Knoxville. Number one, And a lot of people, this is what I think's going to happen, though I have no inside info. I think Josh Elander, who is the hitting coach at Tennessee, is going to take over for Tony Vitello. He knows how everything's being run. He knows the roster. He's an avid recruiter. The Tennessee has hit the shit out of the baseball since he has been the hitting coach there. It's almost like when a top coach leaves, for a college job, and it's like, well, let's give it to his coordinator because he was the number 2 guy there. So Josh Elander is the number 1 choice there. Cliff Godwin at East Carolina. East Carolina cannot compete financially with Tennessee. They cannot compete from an attention standpoint with Tennessee. And you can get to Omaha from East Carolina. You can't, in my opinion, win the national title. You can win the national title at UT. UT is committed to winning a national championship. We all know that. So Cliff Godwin would be an easy one to go get and basically just say, here's the check. You've been to the Super Regional at ECU. Come take over Tennessee. I put number 3, Dan McDonnell, on the list at Louisville. Dan McDonnell in Louisville went to the College World Series last year. McDonnell had a couple of down years. So they had gone to the Super Regional in 2022. They missed the tournament in 23 and 24. And there was a lot of tension between Dan McDonnell and the Louisville administration, from my understanding. McDonnell was asked if he'd want to stay, and he said, I would, but I want to be somewhere that cares as much as I do. There is a facility that was promised to Dan McDonnell in 2019 that has yet to have been built. And so there is some animosity, at least there was, between Dan McDonnell and the administration at Louisville. And the truth is, I said this about Jeff Brom. If he wants to go take the Penn State job, Louisville does not have the money to be able to match what Penn State can pay. So if Dan McDonnell wants the Tennessee NIL money, which he is not getting at Louisville, if he wants the facilities where they'll give you whatever you want, if he wants the high-end SEC luxury, then he would be a fit at Tennessee. And to me, that would be a home run hire to bring in Dan McDonnell at Tennessee, because Dan McDonnell is a proven winner. Dan McDonnell has been to Omaha and has hosted super regionals and really built the Louisville baseball program, similarly to how Tony Vitello built the Louisville baseball program. But at Louisville, from a facility standpoint, from an NIL standpoint, there are some limitations that there aren't necessarily at Tennessee. So would you take a coach who has had a bunch of success and say, well, we can give him better resources. We're in the SEC, they're in the ACC. Let's bring him in with an already loaded roster. So Dan McDonnell is on the list. And I also feel kind of like, as we've seen time and time again, guy's done a great job at his current spot, and he has a lot of respect for the school, and the school has a lot of respect for him, but maybe it's time for something new. 4, Don Mattingly, the Blue Jays bench coach. Mattingly has been the manager with the Dodgers. Mattingly has been the manager with the Marlins. Mattingly right now is the bench coach of the American League champion Toronto Blue Jays. I am of the belief that Donnie Baseball would be a good fit coaching college. He comes to Tennessee. Josh Elander stays on the staff and is the recruiting coordinator and is the hitting coach, and he kind of helps Donnie Baseball get into it. And then you've got Don Mattingly, who's got managerial experience as the head coach. Chris Lemonis, number 5, the former Mississippi State coach. He's on the list because he got fired at Mississippi State after winning a national title, and then they had 2-3 years where they weren't very good, and so he got the boot in the middle of last year, and he does not have a job right now. But if you can win a national title, what that tells me is if you've got the right roster, you can win a championship. Tennessee has the right roster. It's probably ready-made to go get a national championship winning coach. Chris Lemonis is number 5. And I've got Eric Bakich at Clemson 6. That would have to be Tennessee flexing a muscle saying, we're going to spend SEC money for one of the most respected and best coaches in college baseball. So that's my list to replace Tony V as the UT baseball coach. And apparently, according to Tony Vitello, the pitching coach, Frank Anderson, is expected to be the interim head coach I think that might just be a little for right now. Tennessee needs to hire a new baseball coach before the start of the baseball season. And Tennessee's got a little bit of time. I don't know what the transfer portal windows and fall ball and everything else are like. Tennessee's got a little bit of time. But that would be my list. And again, apparently Danny White's holding a press conference now and says it's Frank Anderson. Is he the interim coach or is he the full-time head coach? So that's the first thing. The big story today, Tony Vitello, and the fact that Tony Vitello, the breaking news today, that Tony Vitello has taken the San Francisco Giants job. And again, and I mean this with all due respect, I don't think this is going to work. Now, I think Vitello, like Steve Spurrier, who went to the NFL and then was able to go back to college because there will always be an SEC job. I think he's thinking it like, hey, I'm a great coach. I'm going to go to the Giants. I'm going to win the World Series. I'm the man. But if I don't, then I'll just go back to the SEC and I'll go coach at Arkansas, or I'll go coach at South Carolina, or I'll go coach at Florida, or I'll go coach at one of these power SEC jobs that are kind of all the same. They all care. So that is the Tony Vitello breaking news, and I feel for the Vol fans out there. Okay, let's get to the Titans. So Amy Adams Strunk today was not present at the NFL owners' meetings. This is according to Kaylin Kaler from ESPN, who says, per sources here at the NFL owners' meeting and confirmed by the team, Titans owner Amy Adams Strunk is not in attendance at this fall's owners' meetings. So we, Kaylin Kaler says, will not have a chance to ask her about the future coaching hire or recent fire. She is not the only primary owner absent. So yesterday, Woody Johnson of the Jets made headlines by acting like a complete and total moron when it came to talking about Justin Fields. And look, Justin Fields sucks, but to throw him under the bus the way he did, I thought was completely out of line. And so today, when I saw the Woody Johnson stuff yesterday, I did wonder, is Amy Adams Strunk at the owners' meetings? The NFL, they have like 7 owners' meetings a year. And I can't, by the way, be the only one that feels that way. It feels like every 3 weeks there's a new NFL owners' meeting. But I was a little surprised that if there was an owners' meeting, that a Paul Kaharski didn't go to the owners' meeting, or that somebody, who covers the Titans and not in Jim Wyatt's shoes, who is going to stay as far away from Amy right now as possible, but people that cover the team, Nick Suss, etc., wouldn't go down to the owners' meetings. And then when I saw Amy's not there, I thought, of course she's not. Now, I'm going to say this as far as Amy's absence is concerned. And this also goes back to last week when Paul Kaharski asked Chad Brinker about where Amy Adams Strunk was. And Chad Brinker looked at PK like, she's at her home? Like, I mean, come on now. Like, where do you think she is? She's at her home. Amy needs to decide. Either be in and make decisions or stay all the way out. If you want everybody to think that Chad Brinker runs the Titans, then you need to say, Chad Brinker runs the Titans. I come to the games, I sit in the box, I eat my popcorn, I go home. But Chad Brinker is in charge. But it doesn't really feel like that, does it? It feels like Amy wants all the power and all the rights of an NFL owner, but none of the public blame and none of the public accountability. And that's a problem. That's hard to take seriously. And I understand Amy Adams Strunk decided that Chad Brinker will speak for her on all football measures at the beginning of the year. But it's hard to do that when you constantly fire everybody all the time. Because I think a lot of us are wondering, okay, so Chad's in charge today, but for how long? Because again, she signed John Robinson and Mike Vrabel to contract extensions and basically said, this guarantees these two guys will be hand in hand for years, and less than a year later fired Robinson. Less than 2 years later, fired Vrabel. Then Rand Carthon got a promotion. And then he got fired. And then, hey, stability, draft, develop, retain. Now Brian Callahan's fired. So either be all the way in or be all the way out. Amy wants it both ways. And an NFL owner pretty much can do whatever they want, but it's a bad look to be in the draft room with the phone by your ear talking to Cam Ward and then saying, I can't be bothered when it's not something fun. That's a problem. She was on the field before the game talking to Jason McCourty and saying, you know what, I feel really good about where the organization is. This reminds me when we moved on from Ken Wisenhunt and we rebuilt it with Mike Mularkey, and that's great, but how about telling the fans that? If you're going to tell Jason McCourty, we want to know what you think of your team. And I understand that there are a lot of fans out there when it comes to Amy Adams Strunk and when it comes to the Titans. There are a lot of fans out there that say, we do not care about where the owner is. For some reason, a lot of the Twitter bros, and it's very odd. You know, I've said this about politics. If you feel a certain way about taxes, why does that all of a sudden mean that you feel the same way about abortion or gun control? I mean, gun control has nothing to do with taxes. You very much can think, I think rich people should be taxed more and we should have better public schools, but I also think you should be allowed to carry a firearm. But if you vote for higher taxes and better public schools, you're voting against carrying firearms. I've never understood that. And apparently, with Titans Twitter bros, this is the same way. If you believe Xavier Restrepo is the missing link and that the Titans are absolutely screwing up by not giving him a chance to an undersized, undrafted free agent who can't run, apparently you also don't care about Amy Adams Strunk's involvement. And I think to myself, again, do you want this organization to change? Because a lot of people out there, when it comes to football, they can't deal with really believing the truth. It's almost like a minutia thing where it's like, if I really dive into how bad my team's owner is, then it will make me depressed that my team will never, ever be good. So I don't want to go there. But that is, in fact, reality. Let's use the Jets as an example. Think about the Jets and how bad they've been for the last decade. Do you know who their coaches have been over the last decade? Todd Bowles was their head coach. He sucked. Yeah, well, Todd Bowles has gone to Tampa, and he's made the playoffs every year he's been their head coach. So I guess he doesn't suck that bad. Robert Saleh was the coach. He sucked. Well, Robert Saleh is heading a defense in San Francisco with Mac Jones winning games at quarterback. Kyle Shanahan, very good coach, could not wait to hire Robert Saleh back. Maybe he doesn't suck that bad. How about their quarterbacks? Geno Smith, he sucks. Yeah? Well, Geno Smith, since he left, had to spend 6 years as a backup. He's been to 2 Pro Bowls. And while he's not the best quarterback in the league, he is a starting caliber quarterback. Don't even get me started on Sam Darnold. The problem with the Jets is the owner. The same moron yesterday who said, Aaron Glenn's doing a great job. The problem is our quarterback sucks and is too stupid to play quarterback. Boy, that's going to go over well with the team. So when fans don't want to hear about where Amy is, or they don't care about what Amy has to say, when Amy is the one who is calling the shots in the organization, I have to tell you, you're just ignoring reality. You're sticking your head in the sand. You want to live at the micro level. And if there is anybody who has lived at the micro level, it's me, especially surrounding the Tennessee Titans. I did 4 hours on the radio every day on the Tennessee Titans. Occasionally, Vanderbilt would beat Alabama, or the Predators would be picking 5th in the draft, or there would be something that would take our attention away from the Titans. But over the last couple of years, there hasn't been much. So every day for 10 years, for 4 hours, the last 5 of which I was essentially by myself. There was nobody who was more micro when it came to the Tennessee Titans than me. But I'm just going to tell you, none of that micro stuff matters if the owner is a total Looney Tune. None of it. It doesn't matter who the coach is. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It doesn't matter who you draft in the first round. None of it matters. So you can sit there and say, I don't want to talk about Amy. I don't care about Amy. Again, the Titans Twitter bros, the Xavier Restrepo crew, they were all up in arms with the fact that Koharski asked Chad Brinker, where the fuck is Amy? Because they want to do videos on TikTok about the micro issues that, again, don't matter if the macro is as fucked up as it is. And so all I'll say with Amy is, you're either all in or get out. That's what I'll say. Go to the games, go to the owner's box, eat your popcorn. If you ever win anything, which it doesn't feel like you will, you can go down to the field, put on a hat, put on a t-shirt, but stay out of it. Or be invested and be accountable for what you do. For instance, when Tom Sigerin ran the Predators when they were good, and Herb Fritsch ran the Predators as the chairman and governor of the team, and Bill Haslam now, they didn't do a lot of talking when it was good, and they don't do a lot of talking when it's bad. They're all out. Of course, they're involved in the money and conversations, but they're out. They let the people they've hired run the operation. Well, if you're Amy, do that. But then don't go firing people when you get upset. Albert Breer. There was a large family contingent at the Raider game, so that pissed her off, so she fired the coach. Got it. Give me a break. Alex says, does anyone have a Stillman and Company bingo board? That could be fun. So I want to get to this. Last night on Sirius XM, I was able to have Ryan Longwell on the program. Bryan Longwell is the linebacker for Vanderbilt as Vanderbilt gets set to take on Missouri. And I got to tell you, if you wondered, hey, why is Vanderbilt getting so good? This may be your reason why. Here was my conversation with Vanderbilt linebacker Bryan Longwell. And we are joined now by Vanderbilt linebacker Bryan Longwell, who, by the way, happens to be what is known as a unicorn, because in the city of Nashville, Tennessee, where Vanderbilt is located, he is from Nashville, Tennessee, a graduate of Lipscomb Academy High School, where he played for Coach Trent Dilfer. So I want to start with this, Bryan. By the way, I'm also a unicorn who grew up in Nashville and lives in Nashville, etc. I want to start with this, which is, how exciting is it, the fact that Vanderbilt football, you lived in Nashville, for the last 3 games you've had, 2 will be the game of choice for College Game Day, and all 3 are on ABC and Prime windows. What does that mean for you?
Oh, it means a ton. Growing up around here, I didn't really see Vanderbilt succeed much, and I know my brother was a fan of Vanderbilt all the time growing up, and so being able to kind of bring Vanderbilt and help bring Vanderbilt to a level of success that we are now, being able to be in the spotlight so much, it's really something that I dreamed about since I was a kid. And being able to do something I dreamed about as a kid in my hometown it's special. And it's a really nice feeling. And honestly, I don't think there's anything that could compare to this feeling right now.
So I want you to take us through kind of the discussions inside the organization, inside the program, because everybody outside is looking at it like, hey, Vandy football, they are different. It is a different animal this year. It is and this is new, and it's great, and way to go, little old Vanderbilt. But when I listen to Diego Pavia and your coach Clark Lee talk, I don't hear the talk about little old Vanderbilt. So for you guys to have the success you're having, what is the discussion inside the program like?
Yeah. So, ever since we started this new team and this new cycle, we already felt different. And we knew that with the amount of returning starters and the amount of returning production we had, that we had a chance to do something big. And I think as we got through spring ball, we realized that, hey, like something like college football playoffs is not out of the question. And something like that is now the expectation. And the whole time we're preaching like, okay, we got to a bowl game, but is that all we want? Is that all you really aspire to be in college football, is to make it to a bowl game? And the consensus was no, that's not what we want. And the consensus is that we want to make it to a championship, and we want to compete for a championship. And I don't think there's been any doubt that we could do that throughout the preparation. And the goal and the mindset was preparing to a level of a championship team and doing things that a championship requires.
What are those things that, in order to be a championship team in college football in 2025, what are those things that being a championship team requires?
Honestly, I feel like the major thing is just having a team that's connected, having a team that cares and is all going the same way towards the same mission. Because you can't, especially with how the landscape of college football is, the transfer portal and all that, a lot of teams have really good players, but they don't play together. And so the really important thing is playing together, playing connected. And as we say, relatedness is our edge. And that's reigned true for this year. You see, like, there's so much camaraderie, and like we all love each other, and there's such a closeness and connection that I've honestly never experienced before in a football team. And I think that's really what's propelled us to this amount of success.
Bryan Longwell is with us. He is a Vanderbilt linebacker. Again, Vanderbilt hosting Missouri in the game of the week. Of course, you can catch that here on SiriusXM. So I do wonder, when it comes to Vanderbilt and the way that Vanderbilt is perceived on the outside versus the inside, I do wonder, when you're playing in these big games, how do you take it all in? How do you enjoy the fact that you're on College game day, or the fact that everybody across the country is watching you guys as you get set for Alabama? Is there a way to enjoy that while the goal is, hey, we got to play LSU this week. Hey, we got to play Missouri this week. Is there any way to truly enjoy the success that you guys have had and what it means?
Yeah, I think you can enjoy it. And I think in here we do enjoy it, but still there's a focus on that all the external stuff is just noise that we don't need to listen to. And all that really matters in the end is to come away with the win on Saturday. And you can enjoy it, but you can't let it distract you. I think that's the major thing, is that you can't let it become a distraction where, and Coach Lee talks about attention control, you can't feed all your attention into that. You have to feed all your attention to your process, and the process that gets you to success on game day.
So in today's society with NIL and the transfer portal, how do you, and I'm going to ask about you, not, how does a college player do it, but how do you in particular, how do you manage your own business with NIL? How do you manage your own business with the transfer portal in the offseason? And how does everybody find a way to separate the me aspect of college football versus the we aspect of college football, which is the team and getting ready to compete?
Mm-hmm. For me, I view it as something where you have your in-season and your off-season. When you're in season, I don't think there should be any focus on anything outside of football. NIL, money, transfer portal, none of it matters, because that's not something that's happening at the current moment. I think what I have to do, and especially I think most people should do, is that you have to focus on where you are right now. And that point is that you're playing in the season, you're competing. And so I don't think anything else should really be on your mind outside of that. And, stuff comes like NIL, but outside of that, you need to just focus.
Do you see other teams, and again, I know you're not in their business and in their locker rooms, but do you see other teams that can't separate it the way that you guys have been able to separate it?
I think you see it a lot. You see it. There's always a headline of somebody being disgruntled about something that happened NIL-wise, or a deal not going exactly how they wanted it to. And I think that is, I won't say the downfall, but I think that's a major distraction in a lot of locker rooms. A lot of guys are focused on what they're getting, and they kind of put themselves ahead of the team. And you can't do that if you want to succeed. Okay,
so I want to go back to the way Vandy's playing right now. Bryan Longwell with us, Vanderbilt linebacker. So you guys have Missouri this week, and we've heard forever about how in the SEC there are no breaks, and the joke would be, hey, if there was a break, it would be Vanderbilt, and obviously Vandy is not the break anymore. But you go from Alabama to LSU, now to Missouri, and I have to ask, How do you guys manage the grind of playing those kind of teams week in and week out?
Really, it's I attribute most to Coach Lee. He, as he says, like he wants us to give our all in what we do, and he'll control the amount of wear and tear that's put in our legs. But honestly, we just attack what's in front of us. We get the schedule and we go all out. And, you know, you got to do what you need to do off the field too. You got to eat right. You got to do whatever you can to recover as quickly as you can and be ready for the next game day. And, of course, everybody's going to play through something. But I attribute a lot of it to Coach Steiner, Coach Lee, and then being able to monitor what we're doing and how much we're doing it. And our guys just go out and attack it. And we don't really question it because we trust our staff, and we just go out and attack and take it day by day.
You know, something I think that is crazy about college football, especially in the SEC, is there's a big game, two highly ranked teams playing each other. Last week it was you and LSU. And you guys win, LSU loses. Close game. Again, I think you guys kind of dominated that game, to be honest, but close game. You end up winning by a touchdown. And just the narratives that come out of college football are, on the Vanderbilt side, wow, Vanderbilt's a contender. Vanderbilt's really good. Vanderbilt made a statement. And on the LSU side, it's, you know, the team's bad, the coach is bad, the offense is bad, everything's bad. You guys have phones. And so I know you guys are on your phones. I know you guys you're not stupid. You got a sense of what's going on. So when it comes to the noise inside of college football, do you follow that with other teams and even yourself and everything else? Do you guys keep up with what's being said? Do you guys keep up with the drama and the gossip of college football? Can you be successful if you are just keeping an eye on those things?
It pops up every so often on my feed and all that stuff like that. But personally, I try to keep off of social media as much as I can. And when that stuff pops up, I see it. I mean, you can't run away from it. It's everywhere. But I just see it, acknowledge it, and then I just keep going on my day, because in the end, it really doesn't matter what's happening in other programs. It really only matters what we're doing in our program right now. And
well, I was going to say, when it comes to Coach Lee, you brought him up as kind of the way that you guys are able to keep the focus here. When it comes to Coach Lee, I remember I met him. I actually played for him in a celebrity softball game right after he took the Vanderbilt job. And he and I sat there in the dugout and chatted for, I don't know, maybe an hour. And I knew who Clark Lee was because I grew up in Nashville and he played football at Vanderbilt. And I remember when he played football at Vanderbilt, and I knew who he was when he was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, and he takes the Vanderbilt job. And I came away from that hour and a half discussion, and I was like, this guy is smart. Now, I don't know if that means he's going to be a good coach. I don't know if he's going to be able to win at Vanderbilt, because there are a lot of people who have tried to win at Vanderbilt over the years and haven't been able to. But if anybody has as good of a shot to do it, it's him. And when things did not go well for him in 2023, and I know you were on the team then, and the team won 2 games, and I mean, I thought there was a chance he might get fired. And at other places in the SEC, he might have gotten fired, but he didn't. And he kind of changed the program and everything else. When you go back to the trials and tribulations he's been through and the success that the program is now seeing with him leading the ship, what do you take away from that? This is a very influential time in your life, being in college and everything else. What do you take away from what you've seen of your head coach in your career?
Yeah, Coach Lee, he's great. Sometimes he's so steady that we sometimes call him a robot. So I make a joke that he got to plug himself in every night. But I think the thing I take away from him is kind of like a robot. He just stays consistent. And kind of even after all those hard seasons and after the disappointing 2023 season and how hard that was to get through, I think I never saw him waver. And he always had the same preaching and goals, and he always had the same mindset, and it never changed. And he didn't let anything else, any circumstance or anybody else, change that mindset on him. And he just kept pushing. And I think that's something that I aspire to be like, to not let circumstances dictate how I feel and how I act.
Do you think about what is next after Vanderbilt? I mean, obviously, I know right now you're thinking about Missouri, but you talked about taking those lessons from Coach Lee. Do you think about, hey, next step NFL, next step, one day I want to be a gardener? How do you view kind of your life in this moment right now, what you want to be down the road?
Yeah. Well, first I want to go to the NFL. I want to have a good career there. And then I think his lessons there will really help me be successful there, because the NFL is constantly changing. It's constantly moving. There's a lot of uncertainty on the day-to-day. And if you let that uncertainty get to you, it could ruin your mindset, and it could lead to you being taken off of a team and being cut. And I really noticed from guys who have gone on and who I've known have been really consistent guys, they've made it to the NFL, and they've been that same thing in the NFL. They've been consistent. And I think that just taking that mindset to the NFL and then beyond to whatever I do in life, whatever I plan to do, will really just lead to success no matter what happens.
Vanderbilt linebacker Bryan Longwell with us. I have to ask you about your quarterback. And I have to ask you, we see the personality. There's no way to watch college football in 2025 and not see the personality. So I'm going to ask you what I feel like probably you've asked people about other celebrities. What is he like with the team? What's he like in the locker room? What is Diego Pavia like in real life as a quarterback and a teammate?
Mm-hmm. Contrary to what a lot of people try to paint him as, he's actually one of the coolest dudes I've ever met in my life. He's one of the most, every time I come to, he's like, man, I love how you play, dude. He's the most, one of the best leaders I've met. Has such camaraderie with all the teammates. And I think that you see that with how we're all rally behind him. I never really understood why they tried to paint him as a selfish guy, because he's really not. He's loud. He's confident, of course, but he's not selfish. And he loves his team, and he loves his brothers. And he would die on the field if it meant one of his brothers got a touchdown. And I think that is the reason why we're all rallying behind him, is that he's just he's so charismatic and just a guy you just want to play for and play with.
Bryan, last one for you. Tell me about Missouri, because again, this is going to be the big game this week, 2:30 ABC, or I guess 2:30 Central Time ABC, which means 3:30 Eastern Time against Missouri. Missouri's ranked. Again, I could tell you about the playoff and the scenarios and everything else. I'm sure you guys talk about them, but the actual game itself, when you look at Missouri, what is the challenge that they pose?
Really, honestly, the challenge they pose is that they're a team that has a really well-built identity. They've run the same system on offense for quite a few years now. I faced it for quite a few years now, and they really have an identity, and they do it well, do it very well. And now on top of that, they have a running back who is, I would say, he's excellent. He's really good. He's fast. He can break tackles, and he'll provide a challenge for us. And also their new quarterback, Abo, and the ability of his on the run and being a dual threat. I think the main challenge is them being like our offense, being kind of game control. And really that possessions are at a premium this game. And we need to get off the field and get the ball back to our offense and let them do what they do. Their defense is also very good.
Bryan Longwell, Vanderbilt linebacker. Again, they take on Missouri College game day. Will be in Nashville. Bryan, thank you so much for your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. Okay. Bryan Longwell on the program. And that was last night. We ran that on Sirius XM. And I enjoyed talking to that kid so much that I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's play it for everybody else. And special thanks to Sirius XM for letting us do that again. Vanderbilt hosting Missouri on Saturday. Okay. We got to talk about the Predators here for a second, because this was going to be the leadoff topic today before Tony Vitello got the San Francisco Giants manager job, and then we let off with that. But this needs to be said. The Nashville Predators are off to another bad start. And the Brady Martin experiment, hey, we're going to take this kid number 5, we're going to put him in there right away, which they didn't really do, is over for this season. And I need to be blunt about the state of the Nashville Predators, if I may be. It's time to fire Andrew Brunette. No ifs, ands, or buts. After losing to the Ducks last night, they've lost 4 straight. The season is approaching that 10-game mark. And last year we learned a bad start can doom you for the entire year. And so it is time to pull the plug on Brunette. He is a good coach, and I'm sure that he is trying his best. But this is the NHL. And in the NHL, you're either, as an organization, A, tanking, or B, trying. And the Predators have let everyone know that they are trying. And now we're into year 2 of this team being sluggish out of the gate. The offense is horrendous. They've lost 4 in a row, and they're sitting in last place. But there still is something that can be done about it, and that's to fire the coach. That's to fire the coach and let somebody else take over and see if they can right the ship, or if you've got to go through a full-blown rebuild where it'll be another couple of years of being really crappy. Andrew Brunette, good coach, but it's not working. He is supposed to be a power play savant, but the power play stinks with a league worst 8.3%. And I know the roster isn't the best, but it is better than 8.3% on the power play. I know it's early in the season, but it isn't really early as far as Brunette is concerned, because this is a continuation of what happened last year. So long story short, it's time to move on. And the Predators can keep on denying it all they want. Oh, no, he's a good coach. We think he's part of the solution. But that reminds me of when David Poyle kept ignoring reality, claiming the team was so close when they were getting swept by Colorado in the first round of the playoffs. Reality check time, boys. Last year was a total train wreck. And in hockey circles, the Preds actually went against the grain by keeping the coach. Most places, as far as the NHL is concerned, the coach is getting his ass fired. Boston last year fired Jim Montgomery, who just 2 seasons prior had set an NHL record for wins in the regular season. But the Predators are a loyal organization. Barry Trotz is a former coach, and with the belief in Brunette, they said, let's give it another try. Well, you gave it another try. That ship has sailed. The Predators are dangerously close. It's early, but like Yogi Berra used to say, it gets late early. They are dangerously close to having another complete and total irrelevant season. And that is the thing they said they didn't want to have. So if you want to try to save the season, and there's no guarantee that this will happen, but you need to fire the coach. At this point, it's been a year. It's been 7 games. It is abundantly clear, for whatever reason, Andrew Brunette is not getting through to this team. And if it is the team that is the problem, then that will be a much larger and bigger issue. But for right now, while I still claim to believe in this team, and I'm not speaking for me, I'm talking about them, claim to believe that this team can make the playoffs or be competitive, or you need a new coach. It's time. He's been given more than enough of an opportunity to turn it around, and he's not doing it. And I know it's early, and I know it's clear. It's not working. It's time to move on. That's going to do it for us today. Great show and a wild show. Thank you to everybody, as we were all over the place today as far as our show was concerned, with Predators, Titans, Vols, Vandy. I mean, it really did kind of hit everything. Like and subscribe. So hit that like button, subscribe, tell your friends, listen to the podcast, etc. And we will see everybody tomorrow live right here, 440 Sports at 2 o'clock.